Assalamu alaikum, guys. I am Saud from Degree 33 Computers, and with me I have my friends Zishan and Osama, who are from the same degree and same discipline. Um, I'm working as a cloud engineer at Ireland, and about these guys, I'll say let's ask from these guys what they're doing right now. So let's start with Zishan. So Zishan, just can you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Hi, my name is Zishan. I'm from DD33 Computers, same as Saud and Osama. I started my career with operations support engineer, and then I switched myself to a DevOps engineer. And I have been working as a DevOps and SRE position for almost 2 years now. And I've been learning tools related to DevOps and also related to DevOps terminologies. And I've been involved in the transformation that my company is going through for DevOps. So basically, yeah. So
Mhm.
let's move to
Perfect.
also let's hear from Osama as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Sama.
hi guys. Hi guys. So my name is Osama, as these two have already said. So we're all from the same degree. We graduated in 2015 from NUST. After that, I personally worked for a couple of years before I went for my master's. Just completed that, and right now I'm working as a software engineer in the internal tools and DevOps team here in the States. And that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Great. So that was an introduction. So as you might have seen, a post from Zishan a couple of maybe weeks ago that he wanted to talk about DevOps. He was reached out by certain people who wanted to know what DevOps is, what kind of skill sets are needed. So he wanted to just make a video and tell people about these things. So, and for today, we'll be targeting DevOps and what is DevOps, and we'll be giving you some introduction about DevOps, what kind of skill set is needed if you want to move to DevOps, what are the common misconceptions between support, DevOps, and operations, and maybe if we have time at the end, we can talk about if you want to switch from one job to another, maybe, or if you want to switch to DevOps, how you can make a switch and stuff like that. Uh, all right. So before starting everything, our target for this video is are the first graduates, and that's why we'll try to not use any jargons and to not confuse you people. And not only fresh graduates, this video would be beneficial for the people who are in their last semesters or in their final years at EME. And maybe before starting the video, I would like to tell we both are in different time zones and different regions of the world right now. So there can be an issue with an internet or maybe an issue with an audio video synchronization. No, just bear with us, please. So without further ado, let's start with Osama, and let's hear from Osama that what he thinks DevOps is. So Osama.
All right, so this is a very difficult term to define because whichever way you approach it, since there's so many people involved in DevOps, it's kind of like hard to please everyone with a strict definition. So I'm going to try my best. Um, I think the easiest way to do this is to look at an abstract way of defining what DevOps is to a lot of people, and then we can leave the implementation of how you do that to each person, each company, however they want to approach it. So DevOps on its abstract state is a culture of developing a product. And traditionally there were always two factions. There was people who make a feature and then people who deliver a feature called developers and operations. Hence, and that's DevOps is essentially the amalgamation of those two words. Um, and a very simple way to say is that we want to bring those two closer to each other, which is harder to achieve because on one side there's developers who want things to be fast, who want things to like develop features, do 2 week sprints, test them, and then push them to production. On the other hand, there are operations people who are just saying, please don't push any more features. We've got something that's reliable and is working, and we don't want to break that. So DevOps is essentially a culture that you bring to your company in which you want developers to be more reliable and operations to be more fast. And that's essentially what a DevOps team or an engineer or any person who believes that they're working in their DevOps space is trying to achieve that. So that was like a very abstract definition. And then there's some tangents that companies do when they say that they're implementing DevOps. So there are a few things. First one is, like I said, making operations a little bit faster. So there's concepts that you want to introduce towards operations that developers seems to tend to be doing. For example, treating your infrastructure as code. That way you can have version control, documentation, all those things that you look at in software companies, you try to implement those in operations as well. So you treat your servers, your cloud, anything that you want as code, test it, bring it to your own production version, and then say, okay, we're satisfied with this. That's just to make sure that whatever you're doing is reliable, can be replicated, and like if you bring change to that environment, it's not going to be as disruptive as the original one. The second thing that a lot of people in DevOps, what they do is they embrace automation and cloud wherever they can. So automated testing, automated builds, automatically spinning up something and then implementing a lot of functionality and then destroying it. So making this a natural flow of your a natural workflow is essentially DevOps. And the last thing is to shorten this loop between development and operations. It doesn't have to be something that you develop a feature, you test a lot for 6 months, and then you push it to production knowing that it's never going to bother you. That's not the case anymore. You need to do sprints. You need to do this weekly. So there's a common term that's thrown around, which is CI/CD, which is essentially just shortening this loop. So I just introduced like 3, 4 jargon terms. The reason for doing that is when you're looking at a job description of a DevOps engineer or operations engineer or infrastructure software engineer, these terms are going to be there. And the reason for just listing out these terms is that you should not be scared. They're just like very, very simplistic things that you're expected to at least be able to talk about in a technical space. So that's
Perfect.
essentially a definition and a rough implementation of what DevOps is.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, thank you very much, Osama, for such a detailed explanation about what you think about DevOps. So I'm gonna move to Zishan and ask the same question from Zishan, that what he thinks DevOps is, and how this DevOps thing applies to his current job or role. So Zishan.
Okay, like Osama explained that DevOps is a culture. It's not a job. Basically, it's the process of efficiency that is currently being brought into the software industry to speed up the delivery and automate the process of from releasing the first build and then improving the process for the next builds as well. For example, if you are building a new product and you are building it for the first time, and once the product is in the production, and then you have to monitor it, then you have to maintain it, then you have to make changes on it. So because the business expectations and the customer expectations are know that it's changed a lot, and there's a lot of automation it came in the industry as well, like infrastructure as code or software as a service or platform as a service, and there's a lot of things that came into the market right now in that cloud deployments, so cloud operations. So basically, a lot of things have changed the current scenario of making an software and then operating their software. So basically, to me, a person who is developing a software and releasing it to the production, and then a person who is maintaining that application and then asking to fix some bugs to developer. So basically, this complete process is the automation and efficiency that have brought the DevOps in this culture is actually a DevOps. So basically, to me, everyone who is working from releasing a build to automating the release of build and then to automating of fixing and bug and error. So this is actually a DevOps. So basically, who is doing the DevOps work right now? Because the person who is a good operations guy, who is a good system administrator or operations guy, and he is good in building an automation tool, he's a DevOps guy. And the developer who is good in operation technologies, like a developer who know a lot of good and a lot of technologies related to the system administration and cloud operations and things like that, he's a DevOps guy. So basically, everyone is now becoming a DevOps guy in our current software culture. And like us computer engineers, even though we don't have to, in our university time, we don't learn about a lot of things for a software development. With respect to software development, our main focus is toward the hardware things. But the market is changing right now. Even when you are in computer engineering background, and even when you are working in hardware simulation software as well, in that industry also there are a lot of changes that have been happening in the last few years. So that culture is also changing toward DevOps due to the efficiency of this culture. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. So, in your explanation, you were talking about like building some scripts, maybe building some builds about for the application. So, can you tell us, does it involve pure coding? Do you think that in DevOps you need to code the application as well, or something like that?
Yeah, actually, DevOps is a very vast field. So basically, it depends on your job role, what you are doing in the job, what your daily routine job description is. So if you are a guy who is working on developing a tool for DevOps to support the DevOps technologies to automate a system, to automate a build from releasing from the developer to deploying it on the production. So if you are just using a tool just to deploy that, you maybe need just a simple script. But if you are working to build that software, who will be working, who will be used to deploy that product in production. So you will be very much involved in the coding. So basically, it really depend on your job role, but definitely it's a DevOps. So it's a developer plus operations. So basically, anyone who is a developer, I explained earlier that anyone who is working as an operation engineer and have some interest in automation. So definitely, when you will be doing an automation, you have to write some script, maybe in some simple bash script, or maybe a Python script, or maybe a JavaScript. Basically, you will be writing some code, but it really depends on your job job description. So yeah.
Exactly.
And a little bit to add to that, so I'm going to throw another technical term here, but there's a concept called a pipeline. So what Zishan described is that there's developer testing and production. In the DevOps world, or in that operations world, you call this a pipeline. And any person who's working in DevOps can choose where they want to live in that pipeline. They want to go more towards testing, they want to go towards operations, or they want to go towards development. And you can choose based on what skill set you want to make mature more. For example, what I do is I write a lot of code in my day-to-day work, even though I do call myself more prone towards DevOps. I belong to a DevOps team, but I basically design internal tools for the product developers in my company, and that requires writing a lot of software in high-level language. It requires a lot of interfacing with APIs, a lot of object-oriented methodologies. So I do write essential software, and the reason for doing that is I want my tool to be accessible to more than just one team. So when you're saying you want it to be accessible to more than just one team, you want to take those methodologies of reusing code, using some design principles, so that you don't have to just hack a bunch of scripts. You write proper software. And that is how to identify some things, some companies that are doing DevOps properly, than some companies who have just renamed their operations to DevOps and now just working in that field.
Yeah. So you can hear two different. You can learn about two different school of thoughts from these guys. Just to give you a little bit of background about these guys, Osama was a developer who used to work on embedded systems, and he used to write a lot of codes. So you will be hearing more inclination from Osama towards the development side. But if you hear it from Zishan has been doing or has been in operations since the start of his job. So if you hear it from Zishan, he has more inclination towards operation side. So in DevOps, you have to do both the development and the operation sides. Let's say, to me, if I think about DevOps, it should not involve the complete pure coding of the application. It should be an operations guy who is given a bunch of code and he wants to just deploy it on the system or on the platform or on the server. And then he would be, in order to deploy that application, he might be writing some scripts, not code. I'm talking about scripts. There is a difference between coding and scripting. So he will be doing some scripts to automate the process, maybe then developing some tools to monitor the application. And when I talk about like monitoring or something like that, it's like when the resource utilization is high, how would the application will scale, how the application will scale in, how the application will scale out, depending upon the traffic that is coming up to your environment. So there are different school of thoughts. Again, like Osama and Zishan clearly explained, DevOps is a culture, right? So now what used to happen, और मेरी जो पहली interaction थी, मेरी जो पहली job थी, I was a system administrator. तो वहाँ पर जो developers थे, वो कोड ही लिखते थे. अगर उनको ऑपरेशन साइड का बिल्कुल ही नहीं था पता कि ऑपरेशंस के अंदर होता क्या है, या जो एप्लीकेशन या जो वो कोड लिख रहे हैं ना, अगर उसको डिप्लॉय करेंगे किसी सर्वर के ऊपर तो वो कैसे रिएक्ट करेगा. बट नाउ द ट्रेंड इज चेंजिंग, द डेवलपर शुड नो दैट अबाउट द ऑपरेशन साइड. और इसी तरह से जो ऑपरेशन का है उसे थोड़ा सा एप्लीकेशन और कोडिंग वगैरह का भी आइडिया होना चाहिए. तो इट्स जस्ट अ मिक्सचर ऑफ बोथ ऑफ थिंग्स. So let's move to our next question. Rather than me answering those questions, let's ask it from these guys. So I'll start from Osama. So Osama, so tell us, what skill set do you think is needed for a proper DevOps role?
Again, since this is a mix of two words, there's two ways to go about it. But the general sense of a skill set is, I can just quote one guy who's like very, very famous. Well, not famous, but like very, very competent in this field. So there is, so this guy's name is Henry Dewey. He's a site reliability engineer at Dropbox. And he wrote the first coursework for a DevOps engineer on Coursera. So I'm assuming everybody knows a little bit what Coursera is. So what he said that there's like 3 main branches that you need to look at. So there's fundamentals, and fundamentals is like pretty much same for any person who wants to work in tech. You need to know a little bit about computer architecture, a little bit about operating system, networks, databases. So that's just fundamentals, and it's just this need to know stuff, not any specialization, a little bit practical knowledge. The next thing that he talks about is essentially just getting more in depth and comfortable with programming, debugging, and design. So if you want to do scripting, if you want to do hard level programming, if you want to work with APIs, all entail that you need to know design, programming, and debugging. That's going to be standard for anybody. And then the third thing, which is somebody who wants to like advance themselves into this and take this as a career, or wants to go to grad school and then join somebody who does DevOps, is to get yourself familiar with distributed systems concepts. So DevOps essentially was created because a lot of people now deploy services instead of products, and they deploy services to cloud providers that are available everywhere. So there's a lot of problems that comes tied in with distributed systems. And that's like, as Saud said, that you want to scale. So that's one thing, like you want to scale your product and you want it to be fluent, you want it to be flexible. So the technical term for that is high availability, and then low availability. And then there's other things like synchronization, dealing with file systems that are over the network, like GFS, Zookeeper. There's a lot of people ask about CAP theorem when they're interviewing for DevOps. So those are 2 things. So this is like, these are the fundamentals. And then how you get into this field, again, there are 2 paths. For example, if you take my perspective, it's a developer who starts caring about infrastructure, where my code is going to run. So start learning about infrastructure if you're a developer. If you're into operations, start learning to code, or start learning to like at least program your manual tasks. If you like access into machines and do configure a lot, write a program that does that for your day-to-day. So it's like stop doing all your manual work manually and write code that does that.
Perfect. Let's hear about the same question from Zishan. So Zishan, being in operations for the last 5 years, what do you think? What kind of skill set do you look for in the candidates?
Okay, actually, the DevOps buzzword has made a lot of confusion. I mean, in the industry. So basically, a good DevOps guy for me is kind of there's a word called that jack of all trades, but master of nothing. So basically,
Exactly.
it's a guy who knows everything, every bits and pieces of each and everything. Like he know how the code is written, how the code will be deployed, how the production, where it will be deployed, and how the infrastructure will work, and then how it will be monitored, and then how the bug will be fixed. He know every bits and pieces of each item on in the pipeline, but he don't have he don't want to get into a lot of things with the code programming of the whole application is actually written. What was the baseline of that application? So basically, it's a master of nothing. So you have to learn a lot of things, but you have to focus on a lot of things at the same time. But you also have to have a mindset of automating things, mindset of automation, how you want to bring efficiency in this process. So basically, when you will start when you will say to me that what skill do you need in this to be a DevOps engineer, so I will say that to start with the basics. You know how how the application works and how the application work in the production system, because when you see in the right inside the in all of the companies in the industry, there's a one development platform, and then there's a test platform, then there's a performance environment, and then there's a production. So basically, when a software developer is working to develop a software, he's working on his development environment. Then he will be testing in the test environment. Then he will be deploying that build to a performance environment. And after doing the performance testing, he will be deploying that into a production environment. So basically, there's a lot of process there. There's a lot of things that you need to cover. And if you will be spending a lot of time on each step, there will be a lot of time you will be wasting if there is no automation. So basically, you have to have a mindset like when you will be building a process, there should be a pipeline. So when Osama called as CI/CD, if you are a fresh engineer, or you are at an engineering college degree, you doing a in a last semester of if in your last semester, you have to know these kind of jargons. You have to know that what is continuous deployment and what is continuous integration. So these kind of jargon that are currently being used in the industry are actually really good that you need to learn. And the secondly, the basics, and then these kind of jargons, and then some of the cloud services. Like there's an infrastructure as cloud. So how the infrastructure as cloud works. Actually, you don't need to get into a lot into this, but you have to learn the concepts. You'll have to learn the concept how the platform as service work, how the infrastructure as service work, how the cloud works. So basically, you have to learn a lot of these things, and then there's a version control systems, and there's a continuous deployment and integration tools available in the market. Maybe you don't need to learn a lot of each of the tools, but you have to get an idea how these tools work inside a company, inside a production environment. Yeah.
My mic was muted. Okay, yeah, exactly. So, right, let me just sum these things up. And yeah, you have told about like how application works. You must know how to code, and this is for the people who how the application works. Maybe for the people who are right now in the industry, they will be mostly understanding this, like to learn about the application. Just let me just tell this in a layman terms for the people who might be in the last year of their last year. If you want to get into operations or support, or maybe let's talk about operations or support. So you must know about the operating system, like how operating system works, like the core of operating systems, what are the schedulers, kernel and everything. And then if I talk about, then you अभी हम लोग सीवी भेजेंगे तो सीवी में लिखा होगा भाई मुझे लिनक्स आती है, मुझे विंडोज आती है. विंडोज ठीक है, it's an operating system, but in the field of DevOps or maybe in operations, it's not considered as a operating system which we might be using on servers. So let's talk about Linux. फिर लोग लिनक्स देखेंगे कि मुझे लिनक्स आती है तो आप क्वेश्चन पूछोगे व्हाट डू यू नो अबाउट लिनक्स, या लिनक्स के अंदर ये फलाना काम तुम कैसे करते हो, तो वो वही GUI पर काम कर रहा होगा. ठीक है, तो what we want from you guys is to know about the CLI. बहुत से लोगों ने उबंटू इंस्टॉल की होती है, वो डुअल बूट पार्टीशन बना के कहते हैं मैंने तो उबंटू की हुई है, बट उबंटू उन्होंने डेस्कटॉप वर्जन इंस्टॉल किया होता है. उनको CLI का कुछ नहीं पता होता. सो यू मस्ट नो अबाउट लिनक्स. फिर इसी तरह से आपको नेटवर्किंग के कोर कॉन्सेप्ट्स का पता होना चाहिए. जो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है, जो उसामा का एक्सपीरियंस है, जो ज़शान का एक्सपीरियंस है यूनिवर्सिटी की नेटवर्किंग के साथ, दैट वाज that was really bad. मुझे पता है कि मुझे पता है कि जब मैं ग्रेजुएट हुआ था तो मुझे नेटवर्किंग के अंदर से ना वो एक OSI लेयर मॉडल याद था, अजीब सा गंदा सा, और व्हेन आई वेंट इनटू इंडस्ट्री आई वाज टोटली फ्रस्ट्रेटेड कि भाई क्या हो रहा है, मुझे तो समझ ही कुछ नहीं आ रहा. So then I came across a book, जो UET में एक recommended थी book during their coursework, and it was a really good book, and I read that book और मुझे थोड़ा सा कुछ networking के कुछ concepts आए और जिसकी वजह से I was able to make my networking better and get into here at Amazon. तो इसी तरह से फिर आप cloud, जैसे उसामा और जिशान again they mentioned you must know about cloud. आजकल cloud is the hottest thing that you must know when you are in the university. मुझे याद है आज से 2 साल पहले मैंने अपने एक कॉलीग से पूछा, मेरे अपना डिग्री मेट था और he was doing the job for the last 2 years in the industry. मैंने कहा यार तुझे पता है क्लाउड क्या होता है? And he had no idea about cloud. So you must know what cloud is. Instead of storage के अलावा, मतलब ये जो Apple cloud drives पर ये जो चीजें अपलोड कर दी, इसके अलावा you must know what cloud is. और खैर हमारा कोर्स वर्क भी ऐसे है कि हमें क्लाउड का बताया नहीं जाता, बट यू गाइस मस्ट नो व्हाट क्लाउड इज. फिर इसी तरह डॉक्टर, yeah, go on.
Yeah, and considering, like, if you think that cloud is not complicated, it is. Like my recent experience was, so I read a lot that people are now developing natively on the cloud, which basically means that they're writing stuff on their machine, but they're executing it on a service on Amazon or Azure or GCP. And I thought, okay, that's like a fun thing. I have like a very, like, I would say a very small laptop. So I didn't have a lot of processing power, and I tried to shift my development environment, just the environment, just write simple code on cloud. And the amount of complicated stuff I had to do just to get a Linux server was so much. I had to figure out networking that, and then I realized, okay, why these consultants charge so much? Why do they get paid so much? Because it is very complicated. And if you try to get into this field, another advantage is that it's completely agnostic. You don't have to work for a tech company. A lot of banks do DevOps, a lot of healthcare industry, investment, streaming services. Like I personally, I want to join a streaming service later on. So that's like, that's very like common to know about a lot about cloud and operations if you want to join a company like Netflix or Warner Brothers or Disney Plus. So it's not just limited to software companies. It's anybody who's just providing a service over the internet. So you don't have to be tied to, okay, I just work for Google or Facebook, I want to work for a tech company. You don't have to do that. You can just go work for Askari Bank and be a DevOps engineer, because they also require people who are good at cloud, and they actually pay more. So if you want to join those industries, that was also a nice way to do that.
क्लाउड सीखो भाई. अभी आप फाइनल ईयर में हो या अगर आप ग्रेजुएट भी हो चुके हो तो कैन यू हियर मी गाइस? राइट, यू कैन हियर मी? परफेक्ट. सो जो भी है क्लाउड एटलीस्ट सीखो. तुम लोग को वर्चुअलाइजेशन का पता होना चाहिए. वर्चुअलाइजेशन क्या है, क्लाउड है क्या. अब वो दौर नहीं रहा जहां पर होता था कि भाई वेबसाइट डिप्लॉय करनी है तो वो एक होस्टिंग लो. वो एक देयर वाज लाइक टर्म्स कि यार डोमेन लेनी है, फिर होस्टिंग लेनी है. देयर वर कंपनीज हु वर टेकिंग एडवांटेज ऑफ होस्टिंग एंड एवरीथिंग. नाउ देयर इज क्लाउड. आप लाइक आई वाज सेइंग AWS लाइट सेल, वो मुझे पिछले दिनों भी कोई दोस्त पूछ रहा था वेबसाइट कैसे डिप्लॉय करनी है, कितने पैसे लगेंगे. एंड आई जस्ट लुक्ड एट AWS लाइट सेल एंड वाज चार्जिंग अस लाइक $3.5 per month. That's it. So you can just deploy, if you have a code, you can deploy your website like this, like 5 to 10 minutes and your code is deployed on your website is live. So this is what you must know. Dude, perfect. I think I have said most of the things. और वो जो नेटवर्किंग की बुक की बात कर रहा था, अगर किसी को चाहिए होगी तो बता दे, मैं वो कमेंट्स के नीचे डाल दूंगा. वो नेटवर्किंग
one thing I like to add on So's talk about cloud, and then there's databases as well. So basically, when you will be learning on OS, and then you will be learning some of the stuff related to the networking, then the infrastructure, and there's also mentioned as cloud. And then there's a databases as well. So there's a lot of things that we don't cover in our engineering. Basically, in computer engineering, we don't focus on the databases. There's only one course there, and we miss a lot of stuff there. So let's not discuss that. But you need to have at least a basic understanding of how databases work, how there's a relation databases and non-relation databases, and how these things work. Not just writing an SQL. Basically, when you will be leaving in engineering college, you should know, at least have an idea how databases work in production.
Yeah.
So for the
Definitely.
cloud thing, I want to add something that I recently had interact with a guy who was an software engineer, and he worked on a project and he deployed his project to a AWS cloud. And he was when he was I was in a, he was in an interview with me, and he actually showed me that project on his mobile. That this is my project, sir. So basically, what was the thing that I was really inspired by that guy, even though he was a fresh graduate. But I want you guys to be doing the similar things. Like if you have made an application, and then you are just showing it to your teacher for the FYP. If you can deploy that application to a cloud server and just give it a small URL, a good URL, then you can present it in a very good way. And then in this,
Basically a public interface,
basically a public
right?
interface. So in this process,
Yeah.
you will learn a lot of things. How your application will work in a production environment. And then this will also give you a learning, and this will also give you a very good visibility, and you can present yourself in a good way. So you will learn a complete process. How this you have made an application. You are a good developer. You have even though if you are doing a networking project and mainly it is related to the computer engineering thing, maybe you can do a portfolio website on AWS. So you will get an idea, but because it's the market right now, you will not get a lot of jobs in the market with related to the computer engineering only. You will get the market right now is changing. It's changed actually, and you will not. I don't know any of my degree mate who is working right now in a computer engineering hardware field. Basically, Sama was the only one few years back, and now he's also changed to DevOps. So you can so
Yeah.
if you are thinking to be working on a embedded system kind of things when you will be graduated, no, this is not a thing. You will be working in a software engineering company, maybe for a telecom, maybe for a web development company, and things like that. Because this is the market right now in Pakistan, and even outside
Yeah.
Pakistan.
Yeah. Just we're not discouraging anybody to do that. It's like you can if you want if you're
Yeah.
interested in that, we can have a one-on-one chat. There's a lot of opportunity in that field as well.
Yeah.
If like just to clarify, I chose this field because I didn't want to put myself in a niche. Like I said, DevOps is industry agnostic. You don't have to be in a tech company to work in DevOps. And I like that flexibility. That's the reason I switched. It wasn't that the embedded field was dying or anything. There's a lot of opportunities if you want to do that. Even in Pakistan, there are like companies that work. They don't advertise as much as the other cloud companies, so they're harder to find. But if you want to get into that field, we can have a discussion. There's a lot of opportunities there as well. Just want to throw that out.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for the disclaimer. Yeah, I was about to say, give the disclaimer myself that we're not discouraging anyone. If you want to move, you can. So I think we have taken a lot of time. If this goes more long and nobody's gonna watch it. So guys, there was all from us. That was just a basic video that we wanted to make, and just let us know like if you have any further questions or maybe you want us to make another video or address your concern, just let us know in the comment section. We can make a video and we can talk about different things if you want. And yeah, that's it. और अगर थोड़ा सा है तो भाई जाके ना एक किसी भी क्लाउड के ऊपर एक वेबसाइट डिप्लॉय कर लो, इंडेक्स हेलो वर्ल्ड करके ना, और एज्योर पकड़ लो, जीसीपी पकड़ लो, अलीबाबा पकड़ लो, Amazon पकड़ना है Amazon पकड़ लो. So just pick any digital ocean है, कोई pick any cloud provider, उस पे compute बनाओ और वहां पर एक website deploy करके देखो. It will be completely easy for you guys. So just let us know what you think about this video, and if you have any questions, just post it under the comment section. There is no, unfortunately, bell icon, so that's just so we have started this. So just let us know what do you think about this. Thank you so very much, guys, for listening, and bye from us.
Okay, thank you guys.
All right, bye.